All right, ladies and gentlemen, I promise you tonight is going to be one you're going to remember for a long time here on Sportswire Radio because our guest tonight, once again, is going to be in the main event for GT Ministries, Descendant of the Snake, for that World Championship against last week's guest. That is the GT Ministries World Champion Disciple. And our guest tonight had a huge 2022. It remains to be seen if 2023 is going to be bigger. And this Saturday coming up at the Fountains Church could very well be that start. He needs no further introduction. He has been with us time after time, and he is blown up to be one of the guys here in 2023 that you're going to definitely pay attention to. So without further ado here on the Sports Report, number one, Global Sports Show, the vigilante of pro wrestling. His name is Lee. My friend, how are you?
Well, I'm great. It's Happy New Year. Have you got louder this year, or is this my laptop?
No, I actually think for whatever reason I've gotten longer and I've gotten louder because I think the last week I've had wrestlers tell me that have come on and people that have actually listened to these on Sportswire Radio, whether it's on a replay or different places, they actually feel I've gotten louder, which is kind of funny because usually in life you get less loud as you go on, but I feel like I've gotten more louder.
I mean, you could have just got more enthusiastic about life.
I have you on. I had Disciple last week, so of course I'm going to be enthusiastic because we have a chance here on Sportswire Radio, literally just hours beforehand at the Fountains Church, Descendant of the Snake, to promote a World Heavyweight Championship. And you, my friend, are going to be in a match that a lot of people have been talking about. Certainly guest after guest has said something about it, and so did Disciple, most notably because, well, he's the world champion. And I mean, for those that are watching and listening to this on Sportswire Radio, Bentley, set the tables for us and what we can expect Saturday night at the Fountains Church. You, Disciple, the rematch from last year, Defendant of the Snake for his championship.
So we've had how many months? 4 or 5 months now of Disciple. He won the title off an injured Gareth Angel. And he's been around running his mouth, getting help off people, doing an open challenge, but then being challenged by, no offense to the guys, nobody of like a top tier caliber. And apologies to the guys who have done that, but no one who's there at the top of GTM right now who've challenged him. So, he's been picking up these wins, picking up ahead of steam. Well, he needed some wins. Like, he hadn't won a match before in GTM before he beat Gareth, who was, or as I said, injured. So, GTM has a vigilante, a guy who looks out for the people of Bradford, a guy who wants the best for GT Ministries, a guy who's sick of people walking around, talking the talk, and then just getting help of others to do their bidding, or just talking about how they deserve this and they deserve that, and how they should be the one that everybody looks at with a chip on the shoulder. Well, earn it, just. So that's what I'm going to make him do on Saturday. 40 hours from now, I'm going to try and make Disciple earn being the actual champion, because he's not had to do anything so far. And he's already threatened, because when I beat Drill for the number one contenders, he came in, attacked me, and also got Drill to help attack me. So what can you expect? Every title match I have had for the past year or maybe more, somebody has got involved. The champions always had some trick up the sleeve. They've had somebody in helping them out, or just even title opportunities. I've just had someone out for me for the past year. Now this year, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to take out anybody who gets involved.
Well, we're going to certainly find out. And you said a bunch of different things here that we've spoke about with Disciple. And I want to talk about the first part where you mentioned Drill. And Drill is somebody that we really haven't got a chance to mention much on Sportswire because obviously he's been a big part of things here these last couple of GTM shows. And I mean, how do you deal with that? I mean, obviously, this was a guy that you beat for the number one contendership. So, I mean, certainly that's one thing, as you could see, maybe as to why he would want to have attacked you. But I mean, there is that presence of Drill. I mean, so, I mean, how do you kind of combat that? Because that's Disciples right now. It seems like they're aligned, and that's his handpicked guy right now.
Well, so if you people did see the match between me and Drill, he was just he was just trying to joke. He was being semi-serious. He was making a bit of a mockery of the whole thing. If I'm honest, like I mean, I went along with it, but I showed him why it's not advisable to do something like that, especially when you handed a number one contendership match, especially when it got changed from a 4-way to a 1-on-1. He's got an even better. He had a 50-50 chance then instead of a 25% chance. So in my opinion, he threw that away. He took me on. I've been at the top of my game, GTM. He needed to come prepared, and he didn't. And then, from what I've seen on some of the tapes back, I think Disciple got in Drill's ear. Maybe, he was, shouting at him to do things. So maybe there's probably an alliance there, as we'll maybe find out on Saturday. But I'm prepared for that. I've seen this has happened before. This has happened in multiple of my matches. So it's now something I am preparing for, that somebody else will get involved. I've got the eyes in the back of my head. Drill, yeah, he's dangerous. When he's being serious, he's dangerous and angry. So it is a different proposition that I'll have to deal with. It won't be the fun, happy, I won't say lovable, but
you're not a lovable. Listen, you're not a lovable guy in the ring. You're certainly a tough guy that I think fans believe, and I think that's a better way to describe you. And of course, if you haven't found out what Bentley brings to the table, follow him on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Instagram Bentley_wrestler. Also Bentley here on Facebook. Let me get to a comment. I actually have somebody here that's one of our friends on Sportswire Radio that would like to ask you a question. That is Michael Knows. Michael is at some of the different shows he's at, also a lot of the nonstop action wrestling shows, and he says, do us a favor. Knock his overconfidence right back down his throat. I am sick of his overconfidence. Is that something that, for one reason as to why you feel like you're going to walk out of the Fountains Church with that championship that Disciple has, that you might feel that he's been overconfident because, as you put it, that the opponents that he's beaten since he's beat Gareth Angel aren't exactly maybe the opponents that are in your class, per se?
Well, look, you don't want to overestimate. Well, I don't want to underestimate anyone. I'm not going to go in and say, "Oh, it's going to be easy," because it's not going to be easy. But
sure.
Yeah, him being overconfident could play a factor. He could go in thinking, "Oh, this will be easy." But it wasn't easy last time me and him faced each other, was it for him? Granted, it was.
We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about it.
First match back after the whole lockdown and everything, but still lost against me in my first main event. So yeah, he may be overconfident due to these wins he's picked up. And finally picked up some wins in GTM, but he's gonna it sounds like he may have an insurance policy, Drill, maybe somebody else. We don't know. So maybe that will play into his overconfidence as well. Like you're like, oh, even if I am losing, I've got some help in the back. So I will try and knock his teeth down his throat. I will not even try, I will. So it's only going to be a matter of when I do that, is somebody else going to get involved or is something going to happen? So I'm going to have to be prepared to knock as many teeth down, as many throats.
Well, I mean, we'll certainly find out. I'll come back to that in a second, but I have a few more comments. Let me give a big shout out to Uncle Ralph over in CCW. And Uncle Ralph right now is managing the Modern Day Mafia, which we've seen in GT Ministries. And Disciple actually defeated one half of the Modern Day Mafia, Dave Douglas, not too long ago in GT Ministry. So that's certainly
a tag team wrestler. I mean, no offense to Dave Douglas. I love the guy. But he's a tag team wrestler. He specializes in tag team wrestling.
He did beat Maverick Matt Williams. A guy you know well.
I do know him well. He's also now a tag team wrestler in GTM. He seems like he's part of the Gunko Muttley. So again, tag team guys.
Okay, fair enough. We'll certainly come back to that. I do want to come back to somebody that actually was on the show Tuesday and is also a world champion. And I guess he's referencing possibly the both of you, and that is Hybrid. Hybrid is now the CCW world champion, and he kind of fits in a way with you and Mr. Disciple there, because he was on the stream with Mr. Disciple last week, and he had a few thoughts to say to him in a more respectful way, because obviously he's carrying his company's title, which he'll be in action next Saturday. And you guys will be in action this Saturday. And Hybrid says, sounds like he needs new opponents. So, is that something where, let's say you get the title here on this coming Saturday, that maybe you're looking for new opponents elsewhere? I mean, obviously you can't control what management does in different promotions, but there has always been a relationship between CCW and GTM. And, what's your thoughts on that?
Look, when I win that title. I'll take anyone on. Like, I'm not going to be this champion who's going to be like, hiding behind someone. I'll be a fighting champion, similar to what Gareth was a fighting champion. I'm not going to be scared of anyone, because someone needs to represent Bradford in the way it needs to be represented. So I will take anybody on, like big, small, fat, thin, anyone. But I will be looking for top tier competition, so that will play in a factor. Other champions, people, big superstars, other people who are at the top of their game. I want that. Hunger and challenge.
All right. Well, I have a comment from somebody you've actually squared off in the ring here before I come back to Hybrid, and this is somebody I think you know pretty well, and his name is Jack Johnson, who was the former GT Ministries World Champion, is currently the Bolton Town Wrestling World Champion, and he also says here, if I help you win against Disciple, can I have a title match, please? Big fan. Are we almost now? Is this the game plan here? I mean, boy, I usually tell wrestlers don't tip their hand because somebody listens, but I mean, would you take the help here from Jack Johnson? I mean, would you agree to what he is offered here? I mean, this is totally out of left field. This is something we didn't expect here from the champion.
Jack Johnson seems to have turned a bit of a corner in GTM.
He's changed the last couple of months. This is not the Jack Johnson I had on Sportswire Radio for sure.
And it is actually something I respect. Like, if you're willing to change, you're willing to, he's like the people of Bradford actually started to like him, and especially after the year he had. I don't know how he's managed to do that. And I respect him for it. And the thing to note, he hasn't had a title rematch since he lost to Gareth.
Yep.
He kind of got bypassed. I'll give anybody especially someone deserves a title match, and they can have it when I'm champion, as far as I'm deserved. Deserved.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, that's a certainly interesting possibility. I mean, I almost have to follow up with that, but let me come back to Hybrid. Hybrid says here, love the confidence, look forward to it, respect to the fighting champion mindset. And Hybrid, if you want to watch this match coming up here Saturday night, please go to GT Ministries UK on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, even Twitter as well. And especially we'll have the show here live on Facebook and YouTube streaming. That'll be on the GT Ministries pages, so you'll definitely want to check this out here. But actually, before I come back to the Jack Johnson talk, and another wrestler that's a fan of ours here on Sportswire that actually, I guess, has playfully called you out, another company here is actually tuned in. And I don't know if you know much about them, but a number of different wrestlers that have come on Sportswire Radio, colleagues of yours. In fact, Jack Johnson was actually just recently announced, literally a short while ago, that he's going to be a part of their roster. That is Breakout Pro Wrestling. And Breakout Pro Wrestling has said, Breakout have top-tier competition. Could Bentley be breaking out soon? I mean, are you familiar with Breakout Pro Wrestling? And would that be a company you're paying attention to?
Yeah, I've seen the announcements. I've seen some of the top-tier talent they've announced. So, yeah, if they want to get in touch with me, my DMs are open. That's all I can say.
Can I ask, I mean, if you've seen, which I know you have, you just alluded to it, that Disciple and Jack Johnson have been announced there. I mean, wouldn't you feel almost that you should be announced as well? Because obviously these are peers of yours that you've been in the ring with and had some famous wars and are about to have even more famous wars, especially with Disciple.
Well, look, I'm not into comparing, contrasting about who should be booking who and what should be booking what. Like, they've seen talent in Disciple and Jack Johnson, and so have I. So they're great assets to any company. I'll say that, even though I'm about to beat Disciple. So yeah, anyone who did books those types of guys, they're good by my book. So I'm not going to sit here and say they should book me instead of them because, that's not the way I'd like to do things. But like I said, if they want me there to face one of them or face someone else, then by all means.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Let me get to a most recent guest that is a fan of ours that is also returning to the ring later this year in upstate New York. His name is Mr. C2K. He says, hey, and then he also says, big fan of yours. How about a match against C2K?
In New York.
He's in New York. He's in upstate New York. He's been a veteran around. I mean, obviously, I know you've got a lot of big things ahead. I mean, but certainly we want to get through Saturday first. But I guess C2K now is calling you. You've had Hybrid. You've had Jack Johnson. I'm going to come out and talk about again. And Breakout Pro Wrestling. Uncle Ralph is scouting. You have a lot of people scouting you out tonight here. I mean, that's for sure.
Well, listen, if you want to sort out some flights, you want to sort out a promotion to get this going, then let me know. I'll come over.
All right, well, I might have to put the pounds up here. I mean, I might have a few pounds here. Maybe I have to put those pounds up. We'll say stay tuned.
Why are you carrying cash around? That's not pounds, though. That's dollars.
Well, we can make a transfer, right? There's a Western Union somewhere, a MoneyGram somewhere, right? But enough about me. I want to come back to Jack Johnson because Jack Johnson said something interesting, and you made a great point in that Jack Johnson has not gotten his rematch since he had lost the GT Ministries Championship. I mean, I don't think, and I'm pretty confident on this, I don't think you and Jack Johnson have really seen eye to eye or even spoke maybe before this stream. I mean, I almost have to ask, would you have a conversation with Jack Johnson or would you seek his help? Or let's say if there was anything that you thought could even the odds here? Because, I mean, Drill certainly, I mean, you mentioned it. We've seen it live. I mean, he did a number on you and Disciple. I mean, he said a few different things as well. I mean, you don't usually seem to be the guy that seems to look for help, but I mean, would you have that conversation with the Jack Johnson now that we're here live?
So, Jack Johnson's a bit of a enigma. He's changed his ways at GTM, but also BTW. He's still more Jack Johnson than ever. So, I've got to be wary.
I would take Jack Johnson over Davey Getsky, though. I always do say here, I would always gladly take Jack Johnson over Davey Getsky. Well, Davey Getsky's the Jack Johnson wannabe. That's the difference. Yeah. I do like Jack Johnson. I have to say, Jack Johnson, I've always liked. Jack Johnson is okay in my book. Davey Getsky, that's a different story.
Well, back to the asking for. I would talk Jack. If I need help in GTM, which I don't often need help, if I need backup, then yeah, he's potentially someone I would have a chat with. He's a former champion. Why would, and he's looking to maybe change his ways, maybe, get a bit of justice or get a bit of, retribution, the way to put it. So if he's looking for something like that, I would, and I need help, I may turn to the guy, but there's also the people I'd turn to. I mean, there's Rarebit, although he does hold that briefcase, so he's someone to be wary of. But
Disciples been worried about him in the past as well, I might add.
Yeah, so we've both got to keep an eye on that because I could win and then Rarebit could come out of nowhere. Like I think that's been forgotten a little about this. He's kind of he's there, but not.
He's like the wild card in a sense. Yeah, I mean, Jack might be the enigma, but I think Rarebit's the wild card in this because Rarebit's really had a big year and he's got this thing hanging over you and Disciple, frankly.
Yeah, and I had a title match at BTW with Rarebit last year, and that man can hit.
We covered it, and I watched the match. I mean, there's no question that what Rarebit brings to the table certainly speaks for itself here. And let me get to a few more comments. I also want to give a few shout-outs. I want to thank GT Ministries right now for sharing our video right now on Facebook. I want to thank one of my very, very dear supporters, Carol Russo, who I don't know if Carol's a big wrestling fan, but she seems to have shared some of our most recent videos on Sportswire. And I've known Carol pretty much a long, long time, so I want to give a shout out to Carol. And I hope that Carol's feeling better. I know Carol's going through a couple different surgeries and such, and I hope that she's feeling better. So thank you, Carol, for sharing. And
Hi,
Jack
Carol.
wants. Yep, thank you, Carol. And Jack wants to clarify he just despises Bolton. So Jack, he's okay, I guess, in Bradford now, but he doesn't like Bolton. That's just the one thing I do want to
Maybe
point
that's
out.
because the people from Bolton don't like him.
I'm gonna plead the fifth on that, but I still contest. I do like Jack Johnson a lot more of a Davey Getzky, and Davey Getzky's the one that's trying to intimidate or intimidate or intimate, whatever you want to call it, Jack Johnson. This individual, I think you may or may not have seen, or might look like an individual that you may or may not have seen, says, "Big time Bentley coming to do big things in Bolton. I'm sorry for the decision during the Rabbit match, but I know it won't be long till you get your hands on that belt legitimately." Let's talk about Bolton Town for a second. I'll come back to GTM, but I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Because we just touched upon the Rarebit ending, very controversial, and you looked like you were going to win that title, and then we saw what happened there with the match restart. But give me your impressions on this comment here from this individual.
So Alan's the GM of Bolton.
I was actually trying to not break the kayfabe. I was trying to not say that, or so I'm sort of aware of that, but we were trying to play along on Sportswire.
Well, he's kind of admitted it there anyway, hasn't he? I mean, we all know Alan's the GM, so
we like Alan, by the way. I've had Alan on here. We like Alan.
Yeah. So, yeah, I have no ill feelings towards Alan or any of the management at BTW. You know, his hand, leg or whatever it was on the rope. I mean, as much as it pains me to say, you know, we had that. That match was one of the hardest hitting matches I've ever had in my life, and I loved it at the same time. But I had the title belt in my hands, thought I'd won. The decision got reversed, and then unfortunately I got attacked from behind for the restart. So there's pretty much nothing I could do about that. I mean, I split my head open after getting attacked from behind.
I remember. I watched the match. Yep.
So yeah, I am coming back with a vengeance to BTW. I have a score to settle first, as Phil Michael, who I thought was my friend, long-time friend, when I started training, he was there. He was part of that original training group at PCW with me, Jack Barron, Phil, Alex Boylan. So yeah, I thought he was my friend, but after the match with the Wrecking Crew, he turned on me, he took me out. So I've got that score to settle in February 1st. I mean, I will be making a challenge soon after GTM is out of the way. I'll be making a video challenge to Phil for a match at Bolton. So that is something that to look out for. I mean, we'll see if Phil accepts it. But yeah, after that, I'm pretty much on a mission to win that title off Jack.
And I also want to give a big shout out to Bolton Town Wrestling, as they have a show coming up here next month, February the 17th. And everybody can follow Bolton Town Wrestling at Bolton Town Wrestling on Instagram and Facebook. And love a lot of what Bolton Town Wrestling has to offer. And many friends of Sportswire Radio are a part of Bolton Town Wrestling. See a lot of crossover between GTM and the LWF and a number of different other great companies. So please make sure you support Bolton Town Wrestling. But I got to get to this comment here by somebody that we haven't had yet on Sportswire. I know he's been on here a different number of times, and that is Nishiki. And this comment here, is it true that Bentley's theme plays everywhere he goes? I mean, I've heard it in GTM. I believe I've heard it in Bolton Town. I mean, anywhere else that it might get played? I mean, well, I think the better question is, does it get played like when you're in the street somewhere?
Yeah, I think that's what he's asking. I mean, it doesn't matter. When I'm going out and, you know, sorting out bad guys, helping grandmas across the street, you know, stopping people from losing drops. Funny, at the moment in Manchester, there's an art installation of a big beam into the sky. So
okay.
I'm using that as my kind of signal, you know, like
That for whatever reason, I actually can picture this, and I actually, for whatever reason, do picture like when things happen, all of a sudden that dun, 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 that comes on, and just all of a sudden you come out of nowhere, and you've got that mask on, you take it off, and you just run in and beat up the bad guys. For whatever reason, I actually could picture that from the Shiki.
Well, yeah, that's exactly how it happens. Can I also shout out the band? So it's a local band who I
Absolutely. I would love for you to, because we play music on Sportswire. So any bands you want to shout out, please feel free.
yeah. So when I was looking for theme music, I was searching for local bands because obviously we have the issue of copyright for a lot of shows.
Yep.
So I found them. They're called Sky Valley Mistress. They're a Manchester-based band, and yeah, I reached out to them, and then they gave me permission to use it. So that is the version. It's called "You Got Nothing" by Sky Valley Mistress. They sent me a special, an instrumental version rather than the version with the lyrics because depends. I prefer wrestling theme music without words, but there's also some very good music with words. So,
I think it depends. I mean, and I also actually want to plug a Sky Valley Mistress because I actually just follow them on Instagram, which you can do. So it's Sky Valley Mistress, and I actually like that kind of music, and I like what they bring to the table. So definitely join me and everyone else in following them. I mean, and I also think it's important to have your own wrestling music because it kind of sets who you are. It sets the tone in a lot of ways. You feel that also for you does that?
Yeah, I mean, it gets me in the zone. Like as soon as I hear that, I'm sat there.
I get fired up. I won't lie. I mean, I will definitely say that when I hear that music, whether it's a GTM show or a Bolton Town show, I actually start headbanging them. A couple of times, even I will not lie. I've gone on the GT Ministries YouTube page, and I've actually just heard that just to kind of want to get fired up almost.
I mean, I can send you my version if you want. I mean, I did the start of it, the dramatic bit where I walk out and kneel. I added that to it, and then the music hits when I stand up.
I think I have to say, you and Disciple do have two of my actual best favorite theme songs, right? And I'm not just saying it because he's been on so many times and you've been on so many times and you're here with us. I legitimately like the theme music that you guys have. And I do have a comment, though, from the metal god Alex Boylan, and he kind of chimed in here on music naturally. He says, my theme has words. It is very good. I mean, Alex Boylan does have a good theme song.
I wasn't dissing theme music that has words. I was just saying I prefer it without words. Like I said, very good theme music with words. Anyway, Alex Boylan, we've got issues still, so I don't know why.
You want to talk about Alex Boylan? I mean, I know you got bigger fish to fry right now, but anything you want to say to the metal god?
We had we had a tumultuous. That's a good word, isn't it? We had a tumultuous relationship, me and Alex Boylan.
You and him had an interesting year, kind of in between all this title chasing. I mean, you and him had a little bit of a feud here late in the summer, early fall.
Yeah, we end up circling back around to each other. I mean, coming back and forth with each other. I just got sick of it, and I just kicked him in the face and cost him the briefcase. Yep. So that's the reason Rarebit has the briefcase at the moment. But
do you look back though and say, you know what, was that the right decision? Because I mean, Alex Boylan over Rarebit with the briefcase. I mean, wouldn't you feel, I would say, a little bit, more confident about maybe not have to worry about a cash in or anything like that? Because Rarebit, when he cashes in, it's a lot different than the metal god Alex Boylan.
It may be, but as I've just seen the latest comment of Alex Boylan, I have never actually beat Alex Boylan in a one-on-one ever.
I'll throw it up on the screen.
So, yeah, it would be the same kind of proposition as Rarebit having the briefcase because I've never beat him. It's something I intend to try and do this year. I don't know when it's going to happen or where it's going to fit in, or I will beat Alex Boylan this year one-on-one, whenever it is.
Okay, all right. I mean,
one of my 2023 goals, beat Alex Boylan one-on-one.
But okay, well, let me ask you a follow-up question. Let's say hypothetically, you win Saturday. Does that then automatically put Alex Boylan in the discussion for at the top of the list of guys to get that crack at you? Or, because you will know that Disciple, I'm sure, will want his rematch clause as well, don't forget. I mean, but where does Alex Boylan kind of play into this?
Is there a rematch clause in GTM? Because Jack Johnson's not had his rematch, as we've already said. Yeah, Alex, but I would happily give Alex Boylan a title shot because it'd be something for me to prove to myself and to everyone that I can beat Alex Boylan, especially if I've got that title. I'll have that extra motivation.
All right, we'll certainly find out. He also says, "Good luck, nerd." I mean, he says,
Wow.
"Good luck, nerd." All right, fair enough. Anthony Finkel says hello. Well, hello to Anthony Finkel, and we are here on Sportswire Radio speaking with the vigilante of pro wrestling, Bentley, as he is just hours away from arguably the biggest match of his career against Disciple for the GT Ministries World Heavyweight Championship. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. And at about 9 p.m. British Standard Time, we will hear from a former world champion, Hammerhead Smith, who's going to be in the ring at CCW's Fighter Strike 2. He is going to be teaming up with the former CCW Underground Heavyweight Champion Chris Onyx against Palmer and Ulfric Winterwolf. So excited about Hammerhead Smith because Hammerhead Smith, his father was a well-known wrestler, and Hammerhead Smith himself actually just wrestled the Billington Bulldogs. And we saw what the Billington Bulldogs, they are big-time stars now in MLW and their family lineage. So really looking forward to speaking with Hammerhead. And we are here with Bentley, and I want everybody to follow Bentley on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, Bentley Wrestler, Bentley_Wrestler on Instagram as well. And also GT Ministries. Please follow GT Ministries UK on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. That's where you can watch the shows on Facebook and YouTube Live. I believe doors are going to open around 6:30. First match will start around 7 o'clock British Standard Time. So please, that's where I'm going to be watching. I watch all my GT Ministries shows live as it is. And Descendant of the Snake, I promise, is going to be a good one. And if you like what you hear from Sportswire Radio, please give us a like on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, YouTube at Sportswire Radio, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/player. And Alex Boylan has another comment. So before I get to thoughts on Disciple, once again, Alex Boylan says, if I'm your first defense, at least you'd have the record for shortest reign. Well, how could that be, though? Because he doesn't have the briefcase.
Well, if he was my first defense, which, I mean, we don't know how long the matches will be in between. I mean, whoever cashes in that briefcase will have probably. Oh, no, because it depends. Rarebit is the guy who's got the briefcase. If he cashes in as a new champion wins, then obviously someone's going to have the shortest reign. But Alex Boylan knows that when there's something at stake, I'm not going to lose. I know I've never beat him. We've never had anything at stake. We've always had pride. I mean, pride's a big thing. And the last few times he's had to cheat to win, like as usual. So I would just probably make our match a match with no rules, no DQ. And then we just have it out. We batter 7 bells out of each other.
Okay. All right. Well, that's certainly something that we'll have to maybe consider in the future, but there's obviously things here that have to play out. Leah Chippendale says, looking forward to it. I know Leah's at a lot of the GTM shows. Want to give Leah a big shout out. The Metal God says, I mean, if you ever win the GTM title. Now, that's an excellent point, and I actually do want to come back to this because you mentioned it, and I hadn't really got a chance to talk about this because you in world title matches have not exactly had, whether it's the best luck, the best record, and this is something that's been talked about, and Disciple talked about it. And Disciple has obviously, listen, you can say what you want, but in world title matches, he's been a world champion before. He's been a main eventer. Look at what he did to Tommy Dillon, who's a part of the GTM roster. Tommy Dillon has the Nonstop Action Wrestling World Class title, and he loses it in the blink of an eye. And I mean, Disciple with championships, he knows how to hold them. He knows how to retain them, and he'll do whatever it takes. And you've been one of these guys that has been right there. You've been right there time after time, but you haven't quite won the big one. I mean, how much are you thinking about this here? You have to be going into the Fountains Church this Saturday because it's well documented. You even touched upon it with Rarebit and BTW. I mean, again, Jack Johnson. You had Jack Johnson beat. We all thought I had you on here, right in this chair, just before that match with Jack Johnson. And it didn't happen. I mean, you were costed the title by short only. I mean, this has happened to you so many times. You have to be thinking about this.
So I had a lot to think about in 2022. And, we've had a bit of a break. I've had about a month off. It's December. My last match was the start of December. Oh no, second week of December at TWA. So I've had a bit of time off. Had Christmas, had New Year, just to, get my head in a good space. I come to terms with the fact that 99% of the roster doesn't like me for some reason or another, or just doesn't want me to get to the top. I've had people get in my way. I've had decisions not going my way, and yeah, it was on my mind. But this year, I'm fully focused on just dealing with that, and dealing with everything that comes in my way, and just taking out anybody who tries anything. Going with whatever decision the refs make because that's their decision. And I'm on a mission this year. This year is going to be the year of Bentley, and nobody's going to be able to stop it. No matter how many people get involved, no matter how many people try and stop me from winning, it's not going to happen this year.
All right, well, we'll find out. I mean, Michael Knowles says he knows how to hold them by cheating to keep them,
Exactly.
meaning Disciple. But you know what, though? But he's the champion, though. Say what you want. He's the guy that has more experience going into this match. He's the guy that's been in main events. He's the guy that knows how to hold on to titles. I mean, unfortunately, right now, at the moment, yes, you've been in main events. Yes. Where you've come from since that match that you had with him almost a year ago to this day, you've come a long way. You've a guy that solidified himself into being main events, but you have that stigma right now is you're the guy that hasn't won the big one yet. And there's a few wrestlers out there that have been in that category and they never quite got there. And unfortunately, at the moment, you haven't won the big one.
Yeah, I haven't. I haven't won the big one, and that's something I need to rectify, and something I'm going to strive and do my best this year to do. I mean, if I don't do it this year, then who knows what 2024 holds? Because I am putting my heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears into winning either the GTM. Well, I will win the GTM title this Saturday, and then hopefully the BTW title later this year. So
I know we're all getting tongue tied tonight. I feel like I've gotten tongue tied at least 4 different times. You've gotten tongue tied. I mean, listen, we are live and a lot of people are tuned in, so certainly the bright lights are on us. But I mean, listen, well, literally, we both have bright lights on us. But I mean, but there is a point, though. I mean, he feels confident, Disciple, because of the fact that he's been there and he's comfortable. Listen, you can say what you want. Maybe you have valid points that his tenure in GT Ministries before what he did to Mr. Angel certainly was maybe not the best. But since he's held on to that championship and what he's done in his career as a champion, he's a different wrestler since you had that match with him last year. But he's also a different wrestler, I would say, when he's a champion. You could make that case as to why he feels very confident going into this Saturday.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see if he's a different man when he's a champion when I step foot in there with him, because I know what to expect when he's not a champion. So if he has something up his sleeve, he becomes a better wrestler. If he becomes a better, bigger man, just if he doesn't get as frustrated as he did when he faced me last year, doesn't make as many silly mistakes. When he wins the title, what happens? Does a switch just flick, or is it just?
Well, sometimes that happens. There used to be there's players in sports you'd see all over the place, and there was a guy in the NBA, for example, Robert Horry. You looked at his career, and in the regular season, he was almost like a guy off the bench. And then in the postseason, the guy won like 8 championships, and he hit like 9 or 10 shots for his teams to help them win the championships. I mean, I'm not saying Disciple was a guy off the bench and was kind of a journeyman, but when he's a champion, it's almost the light does kind of come on. The light does turn on.
So he's like a confidence player, you'd say. Like, he gets a bit of confidence, then he gets better. Yeah.
Kind of, because if you look at Disciple, like I look at the match and we wound up looking at the tape before we came on the air. I've watched it twice in the last week. So this was a good segue here. And I look at how he wrestled that match against you and how he's wrestled since, whether it's been at Nonstop Action Wrestling where he holds their title and here in GT Ministries. He wrestles now much differently. You see him not so much going out to the outside, kind of chirping at the fans, kind of smiling. I mean, there was a certain way he came across in that match to where he comes across now. He's more ruthless. He's more violent. and he's more aggressive. And sometimes when you have a champion or somebody that's in that spot, they do feel and rise to the occasion. And I look at that match. You've certainly gone on to do some big things. No question. You know I'm a big fan of your work. What you've done speaks for itself. Your agility, your in-ring work, your size, what you're able to do out there. But what he's done out there, I mean, there really isn't anybody in these last 4 months that I have seen in anywhere, not just in the UK, but in all of professional wrestling, that has been as violent and as ruthless and has been successful as he has in what he's done.
So, do you not think? So, we'll talk about how he said that he set me off onto this great year, and he spurred me on.
He made you. That's what he said. He made you.
Right? That's what he said. What about the other way? So, I faced him. Did I make him a better man? Did I light a fire inside him because he wasn't doing anything before that? He certainly do much shortly after that, and then suddenly this fire comes from somewhere. So was that something that I did? We're talking about how good a year I've had because of Disciple. How about the year Disciples had because of Bentley? Is this about him proving himself because he knows he didn't beat me last time? So now he's got to make himself overconfident. He's got to, talk all the big game and make himself more aggressive because he knows if he doesn't, he's not going to beat me.
Okay, all right. You know what? I'll come back to that. I do have some comments first. I want to come back to Monday night's guest here on Sportswire Radio. That is the Wrestling Championship Entertainment's Universal Grand Slam Wisconsinite champion, Craven Rage. He says, when you're a champion, as he knows he's a champion himself, you will dig deep inside of yourself to pull out everything you've got to come on top. That's a fair assessment. Michael Knowles says, okay, but when you're ruthless and aggressive, it takes one mistake, and I think Bentley would agree. That might be so as well, but since what he did to Gareth Angel, we haven't seen Gareth Angel, though. I mean, we have no idea what the status of Gareth Angel is, and we don't know if we'll ever see him again. I mean, you have to be concerned that could be you, though.
I'm not already injured. I've not had a match 3 weeks ago with Jack Johnson where I've took 15 chair shots to the head.
Okay.
Gareth must have gone into that match not 100%. We know that. We know the match he had with Jack must have took years off his life. And that was 3 weeks before this match with Disciple. Yeah, he was a fighting champion, but was he wise to go into that 3 weeks after, facing Jack?
But would you have done the same thing? Would you have given Disciple that title shot so soon?
I would probably, yeah. Let's be honest, yeah, I would have. But
okay.
I would have known not to get hit in the head with a chair. I'll be honest.
But it's Gareth Angel. I mean, if you're Gareth Angel, I mean, you're the Gareth Angel. I don't think you would really have thought about, hey, I'm going to get hit by a chair again by Disciple, and maybe he didn't take Disciple so seriously. Maybe that's a point that
maybe he underestimated Disciple because Disciple hadn't won a match. He got handed that opportunity.
I would say, though, it wasn't to the... Listen, there's a lot of people you could say on the roster, but I don't think anybody considered Disciple as just some lowest rung on the roster. He was a world champion in the past, and he was in a lot of matches, kind of like you, where he did very well for himself. He just came up a little short, even in the Rumble where Gareth Angel won. He was in the Final Four. I mean, he was right there. I mean, it wasn't as if Disciple was getting pinned opening match or he was facing somebody we don't have on the roster. He was kind of on the edge, similar to you. You could make that point. And we had the two of you together on a stream. You guys were kind of in a collision course within each other to get to the top of the mountain there. And he said also the same things that you've been saying. He said here, he promised us that he was going to get gold here in 2022. You're saying the same things pretty much that he said.
Do you know the difference? I earned my opportunities to get to the top and have those matches. Disciple got handed to him, and, he took advantage of what he got handed to him.
But that fault would lie on the shoulders of Gareth Angel for granting him soon that championship match. And that's Gareth Angel for letting his guard down. And the Metal God Alex Boylan says here, not that I'm on Bentley's side because he's a nerd, but how many people did Disciple beat on his way to the title? My last count was 0. You can count whatever you want, but right now he's holding 2 world championships. So apparently what he's done, he's going on to say that he's going to be a belt collector. He's going on to say that he's going to beat you and then go to other places and take their championships. And he's going to need more bags. He's going to need more ways to carry the titles around. I mean, that's his response. I mean, what do you say to that?
How many UK champions have we heard? Especially, I've noticed in the last 6 months,
they've come on here pretty much. Here, they've all been on here.
They come on here, they go on Twitch and go, I'm going to defend this title everywhere, and I'm going to beat everybody for all their titles. And how many times has that happened?
But I would say that he's got 2 right now, though. He does have 2.
He's already a part of the NSCW roster. It wasn't like he's gone into another company and won their title. He was already
he claimed he was an outsider there with us. He claimed he was, and he wasn't recognized by that company.
He's been on every show, as far as I'm aware. So how is he an outsider? He won a tournament, didn't he? Or was he in that tournament?
No, he was not in the tournament. No, actually,
he was on the show when the tournament was on, wasn't he?
He was not on the. He was not used on the card.
No, I may be wrong, but he's
got 2 titles, and coming up here February the 4th, he's against another guy that's holding a few titles or ladders, depending on what you want to call it. The Playboy Prince Lance Rivera, the Wrestle Island champion, the Kingdom of Wrestling king, and he's also got in KOW. He's got their Vertigo briefcase. So I mean, there is precedent right now with what Disciple's saying. He promised he's going to put Lance Rivera in a body bag and eventually take his stuff. And Kingdom of Wrestling just announced he's going to be a part of their roster in May. So maybe he's on the verge of some of the things he said. Maybe he's the exception to the rule of what you said, because you make a point, right? Jack Johnson didn't hold multiple titles. Getsky ain't getting multiple titles. But right now, Disciple's the guy that does have multiple championships right now.
We shall see. That's all I can say about that. We shall see. If Disciple's a man of his word, we shall find out later this year. We'll see what happens. I mean, he's going to have 1 title in 72 hours. So, no, a little over 48 hours. So, he'll have to start making money.
We're pretty much right around 48 hours. I'll be in my chair watching you, and I'm really excited
about doing a watch along, an online watch along.
It's funny. I've actually considered that. I actually will say that management from GT Ministries had actually asked me if I wanted to stream on the radio, me calling like all the matches. I'm like, do you sure you want me to call a match for 3 hours worth of content? I mean, it's something I would consider. I'll put it out there. If management thinks it's something that they would like, I mean, I would be open to something like that. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't think many people would want to see me watch along a match, but I mean, I'd totally be open to it.
It'd work better if you were in the corner, a little square, and then
I'd be open to it. Yeah, if there's a will and a way, yeah, I mean, I'd be open to that. I mean, certainly, what I love about GT Ministries, and I realize we're coming close to our time here, is that I love that GT Ministries shows happen in real time. So I get to watch these shows, whereas some other companies, either I watch it by the management gives me the tape, or there's different ways. And so I would say certainly that's something to consider. Michael Knowles wants to say, okay, but again, he was handed those opportunities. I mean, he wasn't even scheduled for Nuclear Winter, but he was put on the poster. So technically he was handed both shots. But I would say, listen, you have to take that up with Gareth Angel and Tommy Dillon. You have to take it up with those wrestlers. You can't fault a wrestler for going and taking an opportunity and running with it. He took the ball and ran with it. He did what Harry Kane couldn't do in the World Cup. He scored with his penalty kick. Well, Disciple appreciated that. He appreciated that. He was very happy about that. But I do want to ask you, I mean, I know I've asked you these 2 questions before, but I have to ask them before closing thoughts. And I will ask you very quickly, where can we find you in addition to this Saturday coming up? But I mean, what would it mean to you to hold the GTM World Heavyweight Championship?
So after 2022, after all those opportunities, after all those chances, after all those nearly moments, to win the title in the first match of 2023, to get this year off to an absolute flyer would mean the world. It would mean the absolute world, and it's just something that needs to happen. GTM needs a hero. Gareth Angel's not there anymore. The Vigilante needs to step up and take that what's rightfully his.
Okay, fair enough. And I actually do have one wrestler that's already endorsed me to do watch along. So this means something is going to be coming. Callum Majakster, by the way, who's one of my favorites. He's been in GTM in the past, and we've seen him a lot in Nonstop Action Wrestling, Blackheart Wrestling, also Big Guns and Roses fan, says, I would happily have Tom commentate over my matches. Hell, it would mean someone says my name damn right. I'll tell you what. All right, listen, if you're at Nonstop Action Wrestling, if you're in CCW, if you're in GTM, and you want to make that happen, I mean, certainly message me, and we'll see if maybe that might be something that could be in the pike. So certainly, I'll say stay tuned. Never say never in the professional wrestling world. And Callum, we're going to have back on here before February 11th, Nonstop Action Wrestling, Fatal Attraction. But let me ask you then one other question. And I know I've asked it again, going back to the same well here, but is this the biggest match of your career coming up?
This is the biggest match of the year. So, well, it's the first match of the year, and it is the biggest match of the year.
Good point. Good point.
Every title match now is the biggest match of my career. Every opportunity is. So, yeah, it is the biggest match of my career. It's something that needs to, I need to get through. I need to win this title. This needs to be something this hump I need to get over to show everyone.
You do need to get over this hump, because I keep comparing you to Lex Luger of the 1990s. Wow. You are basically like right now, like the Lex Luger, you're the Mr. Perfect, the Scott Hall. I mean, all those guys who were a trivia question, who didn't really hold a world title or held it for a very brief time. I mean, you're in that category right now, unfortunately. So you're in the trivia question. You have to eventually get over the hump here.
Yeah, and well, not to paraphrase what a company that messaged earlier, but yeah, I need to break out. It needs to be
duh. I mean, that certainly would actually be a good way to phrase it, more or less. But I mean, also, before I get to closing thoughts, I mean, where else can we see you? I mean, I got the Bolton Town talk, I got GTM, we're going to see you Saturday, but I mean, where else are you going to be upcoming?
So obviously GTM in 2 days. BWP, I'm in the Rumble there the same day as the WWE Rumble next Saturday.
It's a big Rumble week I see all over the place. I mean,
yeah, everybody loves to jump on the Rumble bandwagon. Weekend is WWE. And also, yes, at the moment, just BTW. And obviously, I'll be at GTM every month.
And I also promised Nathan Gunn, who is obviously kind of our official, third man on our LWF Power Out with Wildfire Nate Reese and kind of the Acid Stephen Cross. I'd love to see you back in the LWF one of these days. I mean, I know Nathan Gunn has kind of been going around saying that in the back, and I would love to see you one day back in the LWF. So certainly, I'll make sure the powers that be certainly hear that. Yeah,
I mean, both Getsky and Nathan probably want a rematch after I beat them both last year. So,
well, that's one thing. Listen, that's like I said, that's one thing we all can agree on here. Anybody but Getsky, anything you can do to get your hands on Getsky, got my full endorsement. Full 1,000. I can't fully endorse you here against Disciple, but I can definitely endorse you against Getsky. I can definitely 1,000% be behind you here. I'm really trying my best here to be Switzerland in this match coming up on Saturday. I've already been asked about that, but I know you're a busy man. I know you've got interviews left and right. I know you've got to go back to the gym. I know you got to get to training. I know you got a lot of final thoughts ahead here before you get to Bradford there at the Fountains Church. So I want to give you the floor, and I want to give you any closing thoughts, any final words you have for Disciple or anybody else that's going to be there coming up this Saturday at the Fountains Church, and anything else you want to plug or say, merchandise, whatever else. So I turn over to you, my friend, and I can't thank you enough. And anything else you want to say to a Disciple, anybody coming Saturday or on the fence, and anything else to plug, say, floor is yours.
Look, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. As usual, thanks to you, Tom, for the past hour. It's been enjoyable. Thanks for everyone commenting. But yeah, Saturday, if you can, get yourselves down to Bradford, get yourself down to the Fountains Church, get behind Bentley. Like everybody else there will be. Nobody's going to want Disciple to win in that building, apart from Disciple and maybe Drew.
Drew wants him to win.
Two people, yeah. So let's get the atmosphere going. Let's get it buzzing. Let's get behind Bentley, and let's celebrate. Let's have a good time. Let's win that title together as one.
So you're going to really need that crowd then. I almost have to just slightly go back and say you're going to be counting on that crowd to be the extra person then for you almost.
Well, it's more I'm doing it for them. And if they want to help me do it with them, then let's do it.
Okay, all right, we'll see. I mean, listen, some wrestlers say that you shouldn't worry about the crowd, and only worry about themselves. Bentley's saying, "No, listen, I'm doing it for you. I'm here for you." That's one of the more famous Ozzy Osbourne songs. It was on the Black Rain album, and he sang "Here for You." It was almost a tribute to his fans. Bentley, is he giving a tribute to his fans? I don't know. Stay tuned, but I want you to follow Bentley. Bentley_wrestler on Instagram. Also, Bentley on Twitter. Facebook Bentley as well, and you're going to see him as a part of an action-packed crowd here and card Descendant of the Snake coming up this Saturday, just about 48 hours from now, in the main event for that GTM World Championship against Disciple. Will the Wrecking Crew continue to reign, or will the Vigilante of Pro Wrestling get the fans the justice they want? I don't know. Stay tuned. But my friend, good luck. We'll certainly, I know, speak with you after this coming up, and a lot of good things I think are on the way for you, and I am certainly looking forward to a big 2023, whether you get over the hump or not this Saturday. Stay tuned, and thank you as always, my friend, and we will definitely speak with you here soon.
See you later.
All right, and ladies and gentlemen, that was here Bentley, and Bentley is going to be in the ring here coming up this Saturday at the Fountains Church for the GT Ministries World Championship. Want to get into a few more comments before our guest comes on here shortly. That is Hammerhead Smith, the former CCW Underground Heavyweight Champion. He'll be here in about a minute or so, and Casey Jack Bradley says, hello, Bentley and Tom. So thank you, Casey, for tuning in. Also, Craven Rage here says, good luck, Bentley. So, okay, so certainly hang on tight here for station identification. We are waiting for Hammerhead Smith. Hammerhead's going to be on here shortly in about 60 or so seconds. Hammer is going to be a part of CCW's card Fight or Strike 2. He is going to be in the ring with the former CCW Underground World Champion Chris Onyx, who we've seen out there in a number of different places. They're going to be teaming up against Palmer and Ulfric Winterwolf. So excited to have on here Hammerhead Smith for the first time. So we are waiting anxiously for the debut here of Hammerhead Smith to Sportswire Radio. And if you like what you hear from us on Sportswire Radio, we will be here on Facebook all throughout the week on Sportswire Radio and also on YouTube and Sportswire Radio as well, sportnarium.com/player. And hang on tight here as we are waiting for Hammerhead Smith. So looking forward to speaking with Hammerhead. Also, tomorrow I'll be back live with Stefan Havoc. Stefan Havoc is the EHW World Champion. And also we'll have on star here from Wrestling Warzone. That is CeeLo Brown. CeeLo Brown's going to be a part of a really, really big show coming up here February the 4th at the Wrestling Warzone in Southern California. And I want to thank the company there for setting that up. So hang on tight here. We are waiting for Hammerhead Smith, and it looks like he's right on time here. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a treat here. And if you thought we couldn't top Bentley just before, we've got a former world champion. He is a second-generation star. He is going to be in the ring coming up here at CCW's Fight or Strike 2. He is going to be teaming up with another fellow world champion, former champion Chris Onyx, and they are going to be in the ring against Palmer and Ulfric Winterwolf. Really excited to have his journey here. So, with it! Wait for it! Further ado here on the Sports Report. Number one, the Rebel Sports Show. Pro wrestling star here from Colorado Championship Wrestling. His name is Hammerhead Smith. My friend, welcome aboard.
That's probably the longest intro I've ever heard in my life. Not even wrestling MCs do that.
Well, that's why those wrestling MCs are lucky they're in the UK, because I might take their jobs from them, and I might put them on the unemployment line. But be that as it may, we certainly love all our MCs out there. But my friend, good to be with you here for the first time. You've been one of those wrestlers that I've kind of wanted to have on. I've gotten a chance to watch some of your content. I'm so intrigued by what you can do at your size and your background. But most importantly, first here, set the tables for those that are watching and listening here on Sportswire Radio, what we can expect next Saturday at Colorado Championship Wrestling's Fight or Strike 2, as you're going to be in the ring here with Chris Onyx, also a fellow former world champion, against Ulfric Winterwolf and Palmer.
To be honest, with all the people that don't even know who I am, and they're pretty stupid enough to not know who I am. I'm a second generation wrestler. I've seen it all. I've been there. I've done that. I wore the t-shirt 1,000 times. Come next Saturday on the 28th, you're going to see pretty much 4 big men go to war, because you look at the size differences in this match, and it's massive. This is probably the most hyped up match for this show, without a shadow of a doubt. I don't care whether you're hybrid as the so-called champion, but let alone we'll get into that.
Yep.
And it's probably the biggest match of the show. That's all I've been hearing and talking about, to be honest. And for people who's watched me before, you know exactly what I do. I go in there, smash people up, leave, and go home at the end of the day and get paid. Simple as.
Well, I'll tell you what, you've got us fired up here. I mean, but talk about that. I mean, do you feel with a match like this that this is automatically going to start you off into a huge 2023 here, especially against two people that I know you have very little love for here in Palmer and Ulfric Winterwolf?
Listen, last year I started to gain momentum. I started to get my name out there a lot more, started to branch out. Trust me, this year is going to be the biggest year ever. And people can turn around and go, oh, it's the new year, new me. I don't care about that crap. I'm not that sort of person. The way I am is, I'll tell it straight how it is. The opponents that I've got listed up for this year is very big. There's going to be a lot of people watching me. I'm going to definitely have eyes and a target on my back. But you know what? I couldn't care less, because since day one, that's all it's ever been, and I've proved every single person wrong continuously. So yes, this is going to be a big match, and it's going to be a great way to start 2023. But it's just.
Talk to me about the dynamic here where you're going to be teaming up with somebody that's also a former CCW Underground Heavyweight Champion here in Chris Honest. Chris is a guy that we've had on Sportswire in the past. He's a guy that we've covered. He's a guy that also has done some big things out there. But talk to me about the dynamic and teaming up with him here in this match.
It's from what I've obviously, me and him's never teamed. We got similar kind of achievements in CCW. He's been a CCW heavyweight champion. He's lost it. Obviously, I've been a CCW heavyweight champion, but obviously, I never got beaten for the title. So there's the difference there. We've got different attributes, different wrestling styles, so it's going to be very interesting. But to be honest, I hope Onyx is ready, to be honest, because come match day and show day, it's going to be a different ball game. I'm not there to muck about. I'm there to win. Simple as.
Well, I have no doubt that you guys will definitely do that, and I certainly will talk about the situation there with what happened. And obviously, you're back in CCW here, and we'll get into some of that here more for sure. But I mean, you talked about your background here, and I do want to touch upon that while we have a chance. And I think what's so fascinating about you is obviously covering a little bit of what you've done here in CCW, more or less. That's kind of where I'm most familiar with you in CCW, because we've done a lot of coverage on Sportswire over the past year in CCW. That you're one of the few wrestlers in the UK that I've covered that is a second generation wrestler. A lot of these guys and gals aren't in that. So, I mean, talk to me about what that means to you and kind of your journey. I mean, were you one of those that you knew from the very beginning, hey, I'm going to be a wrestler? Some wrestlers, I listened to an interview with Alpha Jr., where he talked about the other day, well, I was good in other sports and I didn't know. And then it was one day I kind of was thrust upon it and I wound up learning it. I mean, did you know from when you were a young age that you were going to step in your father's footsteps?
Right, so this is a story that's way beyond obviously everything. Nowadays, like I said, I'm a straight shooter, and I'm going to be real with everyone that's watching. A lot of people don't like the fact that I'm a second generation wrestler, and I'll tell you why. Because a lot of people go to training schools, they go to a wrestling school, they learn from a coach, and then they learn their craft. Fair play to them. They learn their craft. They go there. They earn their, pay their dues. I had a different way into it. I went to the shows with my dad when I was like 5 years old, 6 years old, and onwards. I've been around the wrestling business since I was basically born. I've seen it all. I've experienced it all. And what people don't understand is the knowledge that I've got in my head. Half of the wrestlers nowadays don't even know that. I probably know things that certain wrestlers who's in the top promotions, so to say, that don't even know. You know, my dad never really wanted me to do it. He never was wanted me to pursue it. But then when I got to about 15, 16 years old, I think I was late 15 years old, and I had my first professional contest against 3 World of Sport legends in the UK, which was my dad, a wrestler called Pete Collins, and a wrestler called
Yes.
Steve. So for people that to doubt me and to say, oh, you don't know nothing, you don't know squat, from my track record, from who I've been in the ring with, and for the matches that I've put on, if you want to check out YouTube, go ahead and do it. Trust me, you can't doubt me, because this year especially, the talent that I'll be stepping in the ring with and the matches that I will be putting on, you ain't going to say anything, you know. For me personally, even the wrestlers, the fans, for them to be behind their cameras, behind their keyboards, and to turn around and go, Hammerhead Smith doesn't know his stuff. Trust me, come by the end of this year, no one's going to be saying that.
Let me ask you a follow-up question, and I have a comment or two, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of them here over the next hour or so. But, I mean, I find it interesting, and almost in a little ways, and again, I'm not a professional wrestler, but I've done 4 years worth of interviews, and I've been around, and I had a career in politics, so I understand, different situations and paying your dues and wanting to learn from others. I mean, why would a wrestler not respect your background and you'd be one of the guys I would think I would want to go to first right in the locker room and say, hey, Hammerhead, what do I need to do to improve my match? Hey, Hammerhead, what do I need to be able to do to kind of get a little bit more time out there? Or what can I do? I kind of feel like in a lot of ways, I really wasn't expecting that maybe wrestlers wouldn't respect your kind of knowledge and your insights, because you're really in rarefied air. Very, very few people at this level have those crafts and those whereabouts that you do. I mean, tell me why.
It's basically because it's a lot of politics nowadays in wrestling. I don't want to go too much into it.
Yeah, don't tell us. Don't spoil it.
At the end of the day, there's a lot of people nowadays. There's a system, it's like school. You're going to go to school, you got to get your grades. And just because I didn't go down that route, and my dad trained me. But the thing about it, I've been trained by 3 to 4 World of Sport legends, And I'm talking, when I trained, I wasn't training in a ring. I trained on one of those really thick mats.
Okay.
To do the rolls, everything. And I literally earned my stripes. And when I did the shows back when I early started, I paid my dues, But because I'm gaining the momentum now, a lot of people are kind of so jealous, because they're like, this is a second generation wrestler. We want to kind of chop this tree down because he's gaining all this momentum,
Yeah, no. Well, I'm going to come back to that in a second. I do want to give a shout out to my guest who's going to be in your chair next Thursday, also from CCW. That is Taylor Truths, and Taylor says Hammerhead Smith is the real deal. Like him or hate him. Well, I kind of like him right now at the moment, but Hammerhead, I actually think in some ways being a second generation wrestler is actually harder, because you have to go in your father's footsteps. I mean, not every wrestler is Charlotte Flair to Ric Flair. There's David Flair, and people forget about David Flair. Not everybody's a Kurt Hennig to his father, Joe Hennig. I mean, not everybody's the Harts. There's countless stories. I mean, listen, David Sammartino to Bruno Sammartino. So I think in a lot of ways, actually, your footsteps to follow from your father are far more difficult than, let's say, somebody who doesn't have any of that to deal with. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Because that's kind of what I think.
Yeah, at the end of the day, my dad stepped into in the ring with a lot of good people. I'm sure you're aware of the World of Sport area.
Absolutely, yes. I am very well aware of that, sure.
Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but my dad's wrestled Owen Hart back in the day. He's done it, he's wrestled with a lot of top names, Danny Boy Collins, Fit Finlay, all of those, William Regal, Robbie Brookside, all of those sort of wrestlers. And that's the caliber of the top tier we're talking about back in the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There is a lot of, shoes I've got to fill. But from what I've been doing the last, 2 to 3 years, is I've been proving a lot of people wrong. Let me tell you something. When I debuted for CCW, I had a phone call from James Barris, as everyone knows, he's the CEO of CCW.
Yes, we've had on Mr. Barris. Interesting individual. Interesting man.
Very. At the end of the day, back before I debuted for CCW, they used to do like matches, like and podcasts before their debut show.
Yes.
I'm not, obviously you're probably aware of Ronnie Thatcher as well.
The gentleman thug, Ronnie Thatcher, yes, who's now going on with Carnage Championship Wrestling. We had him on last month. Yes, we know him very well.
I told James this one thing when I signed up this contract with him. I said, listen, James, it doesn't matter what you're going to do or what you're going to say. You say that Ronnie Thatcher is the biggest villain in CCW. Give me 1 month and that will all change. And what did I do? It all changed. You know, when I'm going to do something, I'll do it. It's that simple.
Oh, I certainly believe you, and I want everybody to follow Hammerhead Smith on Facebook, also Instagram as well, Hammerhead Smith Jr. And Taylor Trutz also wants to say, I think Hammerhead is paving his own path. And I want to come back to CCW in a second, as I see people are starting to come in from the CCW page. But I wanted to ask, because I really haven't had too much reference on the world of sport here. I think RPD might have spoke about it, maybe Rick Marcus and I. A few other people, maybe Disciple in an earlier show we did with him. But I mean, talk to me about the experiences that you would learn from being in the ring with all of those world of sport veterans like a Pete Collins and so on. So what did you learn from that to help you in terms of where you're going right now?
To be honest, literally 10 times more, no offense to the trainers nowadays, but
Sure.
more to what you would know today, you know, psychology wise. I've learned so much from that, how you carry yourself in the ring. Just simple, you know, repetitive, basic wrestling moves that a lot of people don't use today. So that's why I use it as my advantage for my moveset, because a lot of things nowadays that I do, no one does. Now, no offense, but mostly nowadays you just see flips and tricks. I'm not that sort of guy. Literally, I'll stand there, I'll literally poke you straight in the eye, and I'll pin you 1, 2, 3. I'll do anything that I can to outsmart you, to out wrestle you, and to literally win the match at the end of the day.
And that's what counts. And Taylor also wants to say Hammerhead Smith did send CCW into a spin. He has that crowd in a rage. Ha ha. Yeah, we're going to come into that for sure. And I kind of want to touch back upon the CCW current underground heavyweight champion. I'll get into the situation about you in the title because I do want to touch upon that. That is Hybrid. Hybrid we had on here Tuesday, and we had made the announcement you were coming on here in Tuesday's show with him. And I mean, obviously you were in the Rumble there with him where he wins the Lantern, and you were right there. You were pretty much one of the final, I believe the third person that was out in the Rumble. It was him and Mitch Taylor were the final two, and you were right there. And I know it's a situation that you certainly have some thoughts on, and I mean how he won the title Hybrid and he cashed in with the Lantern and beat Max Cooper, who he's going to be in the ring with here next Saturday. I know you have to be watching this situation here with Hybrid. I know you have some thoughts because you were the former champion. You never lost the title. And I mean, give me your thoughts on Hybrid and him and the title and, just anything else you want to say on him.
Trust me, and a lot of people are going to not like this. I don't care.
Okay.
I think Hybrid is very overrated because as the way I look at it, if you haven't gone through me in CCW, you've not done anything. That's my opinion on it all. I don't respect him. He hasn't earned my respect because at the end of the day, he used to be a former cage fighter or whatever he used to do. Fair play.
Correct.
But at the end of the day, this is a different ball game when you step into professional wrestling. You're stepping into my turf. You're stepping into my basically yard where you're going to take money and food out of my family's mouths by coming into this business. Trust me, I'm going to defend it as much as I can. So Hybrid can keep that title as close as he can to him. But trust me, if he beats Max Cooper, which he probably will because Max Cooper is nothing but a piece of trash, but that's a different story. And at the end of the day, if he stepped into the ring with me, he will be in for not only just a beating, but a lesson of professional wrestling. Because as far as I'm concerned, the only thing that he can do in his caliber, you may disagree or agree with this, it's only a spear. That's it. As far as I'm concerned, I will tie him up in knots, according to professional wrestling's terms.
All right, let me ask you a follow-up question because you said a couple of different interesting things here. And again, we are here with pro wrestling star Hammerhead Smith, the former CCW Underground Heavyweight Champion, who will be in the ring next Saturday at the Colored Championship Wrestling's Fight or Strike 2. And you said a number of different things that I find interesting because you referenced his background of being a cage fighter, MMA, whatever you want to call it. And his in-ring experience is far more limited than yours. And we had talked about descriptions of certain world champions and more recent CCW champions. And I mean, do you feel in a lot of ways that maybe he hasn't respected the business as to why you feel that way? And he's somebody that's one of these guys that's kind of like a one move guy or a two move guy, and put him in there with, let's say, somebody to your caliber for 20, 30 minutes. He wouldn't be able to go. Is that what maybe you're kind of referring to here in a bit?
Listen, like the way I look at Hybrid is he's just come into CCW. He's got a lot of reps to do yet. And I mean a lot, you know. He's only been in this business for a little while. I don't know exactly how long.
About a little over a year and change.
You know, fair play to him. You know, he got lucky in December. He won the title. You know, if I was in the same ring with him, I don't think he would have done it. But you know, unfortunately, I had a bit of a mishap with the Rumble. I got eliminated, and then he cashed in at the end of the match. He got lucky. Trust me, if he was in the ring with me for 10 minutes, he wouldn't even get a wrist lock in. That's how serious I am with this. You know, he hasn't earned my respect until he's gone through me. At the end of the day, if you haven't gone through me, you're a step below me. Because to really essence what professional wrestling is in CCW, and this is not just me saying, you know, oh, I've got an ego of point, but I think theoretically I'm the most experienced person on the roster. I've been there and done that. I've worn a t-shirt 1,000 times, you know. So if Hybrid can claim that, you know, he's doing this for the fans, I don't think he's doing it for the fans. I quite frankly think he's just doing it for himself. Simple as, because at the end of the day, I've never lost or got defeated for that championship, and I deserve a rematch, but I've never been given it since I've returned. And I think that's a bit disheartening, because I'm telling you this now, if I was the champion again, a lot of things would change 100%.
Well, I'm going to come back to that. I do have a couple of comments because I have another comment for you. Certainly, sparks are definitely flying here. Taylor Truth says the fast risers like Hybrid make the likes of Hammerhead Smith feel inferior.
You see, Taylor is one of these.
He's a CWO brethren, of course, of Mr. Hybrid.
He could be Michelin Man's, you know, action. He can do what he could be literally Barney the dinosaur. I couldn't care less. At the end of the day, Taylor, you know that I'm talking the truth, right? You know, he's not on my level. And until he actually has the balls to step into the ring with me, he ain't going to earn my respect, you know. And when he does step into the ring with me, he will have a wrestling lesson, whether it's a 5-minute match, whether it's a 20-minute match. Trust me, Tom, I've been in the ring for almost nearly an hour before. I can go all day long, trust me. So I want to see if Hybrid is that sort of level. You know, it's convenient for his name, Hybrid, because I haven't seen anything hybrid about him. He's like a slug, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I mean, they call that term, because I heard this on a podcast out there, a Broadway. That means that what Hammerhead Smith was able to do was do a Broadway. So that's very impressive in itself. But I actually have the owner of a CCW here tuned in, Mr. James Barris, because he was referenced. He says, Hammerhead, I'm pretty sure you will climb back to the ladder in CCW. There's no doubt about it. Any thoughts you want to say to the owner of the company, Mr. James Barris?
Well, you know, at least James knows what's going on. He knows the potential I've got. He knows the talent that I've got. And, you know, there's been a mishap, you know, last year when I left and departed CCW. But at the end of the day, he knows what I'm like. He knows the business that I bring to the ring, and he knows the sort of talent that I bring to the ring. So, you know, I totally agree with him.
I'm sure you definitely do. And Taylor wants to chime in here once again and says every match is a lesson no matter the opponent. Let me ask you something, and I kind of get the sense that if you were in the same spot as Hybrid, let's say you had that Lance, although we could obviously make the case you may never have lost the championship, but if you were in that position that Hybrid had been in, because Prince Dagan even made the point that in Latin was translated to English that he kind of did a double cross a bit when it came to Max Cooper winning the championship. If you were in that position of Hybrid with the Lantern, would you have done it the same way, or how
Look,
would you have gone about that?
right, but I would have done it better. Unfortunately, Hybrid didn't do it better. I would have cashed in on him, and then I would have literally served Max Cooper a milkshake, and I would have said, "Listen, mate, a milkshake. We'll take the title away. Merry Christmas. I'll see you on the."
Okay, well, certainly, I guess then, in a way, I almost have to follow up on Max Cooper, not to ask you your opinion on him, but I guess he wants a submission match on Hybrid. I mean, maybe that's the right way to go about it toward Hybrid, because you did reference the fact that Hybrid doesn't really have much experience in watching that Rumble. He didn't really do that much in the ring. You could make the case. He pretty much just kind of sat there and kind of waited for the moment. And the match with Dagan, we really didn't see that much. I mean, I watched the match and like you did and everybody else. And you
This
guys,
is what I mean. He needs to impress people, and he hasn't impressed me yet. And I'm sorry to say it, it's the truth. He hasn't. He hasn't earned my respect, and I feel like he hasn't earned his stripes yet. He's lucky that he's got that championship. I honestly am meaning this. He's lucky he's got it, and he's lucky that he got it when he did. Because if it was a few minutes later or 3 minutes earlier, he wouldn't have got it because I would have been in the ring.
okay, fair enough. Taylor does want to say something that I do want to touch upon now, and that is the CCW Underground Heavyweight Championship, which you had. He says, I do think Hammerhead would still be our champion now that he had not left. Despite our differences, he has talent. Now, I want to talk about this in the fact that you were the champion. You never lost the title. You held the championship for a very brief time, and I'd asked you beforehand if this was something that we could bring up because I don't want to get into the middle of things and things do happen. We don't want to make it too personal on Sportswire. We want to give everybody a chance and everybody the opportunity because we don't want to, get into the personal weeds here. I feel that there needs to be some type of respect. So I would like to ask you if it's okay. I mean, talk to me about you held the championship and you had to relinquish it. I mean, talk about that situation and what did that feel for you and giving up something you worked so hard for?
So, that night was a lot of things happened. You saw the formation of Top Tier.
Yes, I did.
That was the first night. You saw literally the best heavyweight champion get crowned that night, without a shadow of a doubt. My lead up, from September 11th of last, when CCW ran, I was building so much momentum, show after show after show. A lot of people didn't like the way I ran with things. The crowd definitely don't like me. I couldn't care less.
I've seen that. That I've seen.
So I couldn't care less. And I went for opponent after opponent, So when I took on Ronnie Thatcher and Dustin Hart and I won the title, and that's when Top Tier happened, I won the championship. It was a good moment. It was my first ever championship that I won. And it will happen again without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, things happened, but things happen in life that you can't really control. Things get muddled up now and again. But look, I'm back and I'm going through the whole roster without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, I certainly have no doubt that you are going to be in the mix here for regaining that championship. And I mean, talk to me. That was your first championship. And what did that mean to you holding your first championship being a world title? That's a big deal, right? I mean, to be a world champion right off the bat, the first championship. I mean, talk to me at least about the moment you win the title and what did that mean to you at that particular moment?
Well, at the particular time, I didn't really think about it, and I know it sounds crazy, but I went for an absolute war with Dustin and Ronnie, so I was a bit battered up. But then when it all sunk in, it did mean a lot. This is something that I've been working towards for literally 6 years. I busted my ass going up and down the country, traveling miles and miles to shows, not just the CCW, to other promotions. I've been proving why I deserve to be in this business and why I do deserve to carry on the name of Hammerhead Smith. And that night secured it, really.
Definitely, no question. Being a world champion, I don't care where it is, for what it is, you certainly did that here, and I want to come back also to some other stuff. And where could we see you also wrestling upcoming in 2023? I know you have a lot of places you're going to be at. So
Yeah, this year is probably the biggest year, and literally going to be a good year. So obviously, a lot, every month you probably expect me to see at CCW without a doubt.
good, good. It means I can watch you then live. Then that's good.
Pro 2 Wrestling is based in Scotland. You'll see me there. Another place called ABBA as well. That's another Scotland promotion. You will see me there. A new promotion starting out in March called Firestar Pro Wrestling. You'll
Very
see
familiar with 5-Star. Yep.
with this show, with that one, it's going to be another big one for me because I'm stepping into the ring with a guy that is a head coach of Pro Wrestling Malta. He's wrestling and a tag team partner to Tajiri in All Japan Pro Wrestling. He's called Gianni Valletta. So I've got a title match with him in March. So once again, that's another proving ground that you're going to see me step in the ring and show you exactly what I'm capable of. So there's another one you'll see me at. Obviously, as you well know, Breakout Pro Wrestling, you'll see me at.
Yep, that was my next one. I was going to ask.
I'm still awaiting my opponent, my match, but you will see, just to let everyone know, in the next month or so, you will see me release a video to Breakout Pro Wrestling. And trust me, I'm demanding everything in Breakout. I want the complete best. I couldn't care less.
I want to. And I want to talk about that because Breakout Pro Wrestling, I mean, what a stacked roster to begin with. I mean, they've got the Bolton Town World Champion, Jack Johnson. They've got Disciple, who's the GT Ministries World Champion, the Nonstop Action Wrestling World Class Champion. I mean, it's a who's who of people. I know Taylor is involved in it. Lloyd Damian Stone, Slugger Hampton. I mean, it is just a deep roster. It's a who's who of people that we've had here on Sportswire Radio. Monday's guest, Champagne Charlie and the Nomad Dalton Garrett. And they've got 4 championships between them in their own right. They're going to be in Breakout Pro Wrestling. I mean, Breakout Pro Wrestling is really exciting. Go ahead.
At the end of the day, like, what people need to still realize is the first ever signing to Breakout Pro Wrestling was me.
Yes, back in October, if I'm not mistaken. Back in October. You were in fact, I actually want to go back to this because I believe it was it Matt Maxwell, I think, was on there, and you came on and popped on, and I believe right around that time, the end of October, if I believe you got signed right around that time. Yep. So I have to give you your due on that, and I want everybody to give Hammerhead Smith his due and follow him on Instagram, Hammerhead Smith _Jr. Cutlery Championship Wrestling. Please like their pages on Facebook. Also, the Cutlery Championship Wrestling Group, Carnage Championship Wrestling Group. Also, Cutlery Championship Wrestling is on Instagram. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, and you like what you hear from us on Sportswire Radio, do give us a like on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. Also, YouTube, where you can catch all of these shows in case you want to see them again, or you can do that at Sportswire Radio. Also, if you want to hear our audio from all of our great shows, we do all types of stuff. We do music on here. I play music of all different genres. I also do some podcasting from shows that we stream. It's on sportnarium.com/player. We'll be back here with another doubleheader tomorrow, coming up here with pro wrestling stars Stephen Havoc of EHW here in Buffalo, New York. And then we'll have on California standout CeeLo Brown. CeeLo Brown's going to be in the ring for the Wrestling War Zone, which is led by a number of different people. And very, very excited about that. Vito Fratelli and the who's who of other people we're going to have on. And we'll get ready for their shows coming up on February the 4th. But in the meantime, we are here with Hammerhead Smith, and Hammerhead Smith is going to be a part of the CCW show again next Saturday, Fight or Strike 2. He is going to be in the ring with Chris Onyx, also a fellow former CCW underground heavyweight champion of the world, and they will be in the ring against Palmer and Ulfric Winterwolf. So very, very excited about this match. Arguably should be the main event, could be the main event. Stay tuned, but we're here. Double main event? Can we make it a double main event? I mean, we could do a double main event if you want.
If James is watching, make it happen. Simple.
That's up to James Barris. All right, well, we'll see. We'll see what Mr. Barris says. But, speaking of matches that I am sure you get asked about a lot, and I think you know where I'm going with this. You were in the ring not too long ago speaking with big-time stars. I guess you could say second-generation stars now. That was the Billington Bulldogs, and we just saw them now recently a part of things in the MLW. And MLW is actually a company on Sportswire Radio that I can't say I have a big relationship with, but we've sort of been in the press department. I've had some different dealings with them, so I'm very familiar with this company, in MLW, and they actually run not too far from my neck of the woods here in New York City. And I mean, I have to ask you because I know you get asked about this a lot here, Hammerhead. What was that experience like, being in the ring alongside Rob Valentine against the Billington Bulldogs?
It was a very interesting concept because the whole story behind it is obviously the Billington Bulldogs are the nephews of the obviously Dynamite Kid. And
God
then,
rest his soul. Yep.
across the ring, you've got Rob Valentine, who's an up and coming wrestler, very talented guy. And then next to him, you've got a second generation wrestler, Hammerhead Smith. So you can only imagine the sort of things that will happen in that match. I'm not even joking. We went 30 minutes.
I was gonna say that was one of the longest tag team matches I've seen in a long time.
And we went we went to war, and the feedback that I've had on this match has been very high. It's been very high praised. It's kind of helped me to put myself on the map a little bit because, as much as the Billington Bulldogs, they haven't been in the business for that long, but they've done quite a lot for the short amount of time that they've been there. And let me tell you, there's a lot of times where the Billington Bulldogs will not show that they've gone, with respect a lot. They would do the match. And after the match, I can tell that they were like, Hammerhead Smith is something that people need to be watching out for because we went to war on that night. And I will happily do it again. Happily.
Let me ask you a question. I thought about this while I was watching the match, and I'll have a couple of thoughts on what you bring to the table in the ring. But in terms of knowing that they signed with MLW, knowing that they're going to be now worldwide, and I mean, what do you take away from that, knowing that, let's say, 6 months before they were signed, they were in the ring, not just in a match for a few minutes with you, they were in about a 28, 29-minute match with you. And what do you take away from that in terms of your resume, into terms of where you want to go?
So the only thing I can really say is, look, I hung with the best for 30 minutes. What's stopping me from going to MLW or a big company and hanging with the best for 30 minutes, maybe more? There's nothing stopping me. I've proven it day in and day out every time I perform. And trust me, if I got the opportunity to go, you'll see it worldwide, you'll see it nationwide. I'll hang with the best no matter what. You'll see it at Firestar Pro Wrestling. I can hang with the best. You can see it at CCW, even though Hammerhead Smith is the best there. No egotistical of there, but James Barris knows that. You'll see it at Breakout. I will hang around with the best, and I will prove myself day in and day out, every show that I do. Because at the end of the day, the way I look at it, you don't know who's watching in the crowd. Anyone could be there. Any scouts, anyone, So you could do a match, you can do really well, you can get signed, Anything's possible nowadays.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, listen, I interviewed Synergy about 2 years ago, and Synergy were on Progress, which is the WWE Network, a part of that company there. And I mean, there's been a number of different wrestlers that I've had on that have gone on to have that type of success. And I think Taylor Trutz pretty much seems to be in agreement. He says Hammerhead has the potential to make it to the top promotions. Let me ask you one more follow up on that. Do guys in the locker room, at least the ones that might want to talk to you, you might want to say in terms of asking for that knowledge and picking your brain, do they ask you about that match and, hey, what do I need to do, and maybe improving my game? Or, you were in a ring, listen, like I said, for about 28, 29 minutes with the Billington Bulldogs. I mean, they're in MLW. They're going to be probably in other places afterwards. Could be AEW, Impact. And, I mean, do you get asked by some wrestlers, hey, what do I need to do to kind of stand out and be like in that kind of moment that you were in?
I get a lot of, especially in CCW, there's a lot of up and coming good talent coming up in CCW without a shadow of a doubt. And I find it upon myself, I want to work with these talents, I want to not just, put on great matches, but I want to help them, on the road, so on a match, I want to, make them learn. This ain't no Digger hybrid. He's got potential, but he hasn't shown me anything yet that is really outstanded me, and and kind of shown me he wants this. All of the new talent in CCW, I'm happy to work with. I'm happy to wrestle, and I'm happy to show them what wrestling's all about. And I'm happy to know that when they do make it to that level, I've been some sort of a help to that. And I've been doing this for like 6 years. I've been around it all my life due to my father, and I feel like I've got that sort of responsibility, especially when I see all these up and new coming talents coming up through the training schools, that it's good to work with them because I know that they're hungry and I know they're fresh and they want this.
I can certainly see that. Yep.
If I know they want this in this business, then literally I will happily help them. If I feel like that they're just in this business to make some sort of like, oh, look, I've done this, I'm not interested because I'm doing this. I want this for a living. This is the only thing that I've known since I was a little kid, and I will be damned if I have people come into this business or people come into the ring with me and try and take advantage. It's just not what I'm like.
And I will say again, I can't speak on behalf of the other companies that you've been a part of, but I can say in covering CCW, there are a lot of people that do work very hard and trying to make the company succeed and the following that it has. And CCW, I do believe, is a company where a lot of the wrestlers really are trying to better themselves. And that's why I love CCW. And I most importantly love the energy that CCW has to offer. But I want to talk about what you do in the ring, because I'm so impressed by your size. You're not just one of these big guys that just goes out there and punches and kicks. No, you're one of these guys. I mean, you move and your agility out there in the ring. I mean, to do what you're able to do and watching some of your other content, which you just basically do a YouTube search for your name, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes up there. I mean, it's really impressive. I mean, you must take a lot of pride in what you're able to do with your size, because a lot of guys, a lot of big guys, doesn't matter where they are, whether it's here locally in the UK or whether it's in Impact or WWE, they don't do what you're doing out there. I mean, talk to me about just your craft and how you're able to move so well for your size.
It's like what I said to you earlier. You see a lot of guys nowadays that it's always the flips and tricks. It's just what wrestling is nowadays. You get that. With me, I try and move away from kind of the whole movement of like, oh, I want to see him do this. Like for my size, I've done things that people have been like, how's that possible? How have you done that? And I like to catch my opponents off guard. It's plain and simple. And my mindset has always been this: I step into that ring, and I want to steal the show every single time I step in the ring. And I feel like I do that a lot. And I feel like this makes it into my head that this is why I deserve to be here. And I have this mentality because it just makes me like just go better. As you said earlier, I've got a big shoe to fill, obviously with my father. And I've tried to take some similarities to what my dad does. If you watch my dad's stuff to my stuff, you do see certain similarities, but I try and make it, no offense to my father, but I try and do better. It's like kind of outdoing your dad. You go, right, I can do this, but I'll do it better.
Well, I think he'd actually want you to do it better, because why would he want you to do the same or if not less than it? I think that if he were around, he would want you to be better than what he does, because I think that's why he wanted you to, and you went into wrestling. I mean, nobody goes just to be the same. I mean, you want to go out and hone your own trail, and I believe that you're on your way to doing that here. And I thought what was also so impressive about you is that you wrestled, I believe, over 30 times in 2022, which means that this year, I would have to think one of the goals off the bat is going to be to wrestle more than that. And I think you're on your way to doing that. And I was also curious on maybe some other goals here in 2023 for you.
There's a lot of goals that I want to achieve. I want to tour around in Europe. I want to eventually go to Japan. In my personal opinion, as much as WWE and AEW and TNA sounds great, to really better myself and to learn even more, Japan is the place for me. Because you got a lot of talent in Japan. I feel like the Japanese fans, they love it over there. I think with my size and the way my style is, as you said, they'll be very impressed because, there's certain things that people wouldn't think I could do with the size and everything that I've got.
And I also think the Japanese wrestling fan is far different than, let's say, certainly a WWE fan. I think a AEW fan, to an extent, is a little different, but certainly the WWE fan is what you call the mainstream casual wrestling fan. Whereas a Japanese wrestling fan, they're going to appreciate if you're going to be out there 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes, as you even said in your case. And that's kind of where I think wrestlers they go on. And an example of somebody that's accomplished a lot in Japan that's also a second generation wrestler, sort of related to the Billington Bulldogs, is Davey Boy Smith Jr. I mean, he's had a very, very long and accomplished career in Japan. Kenny Omega. So, I mean, that's a great, great point. And I want to give a shout out to somebody that's just tuned in here. That is Joel Cobra of the Modern Day Mafia, newest edition of CCW. He says, "Good evening, fellas." And anything you might want to say to Joel? Anything you've been watching some of his work and such?
Modern day mafia, well aware of their work, well aware of what they're capable of. I feel like Joel's got a lot of potential. He's got the look, he's got the moveset.
He's big. He's big too. He's big.
And the way I look at it, big guys need to stay together. So I've got no issue with him. I've got no issue with him. At the end of the day, I'm happy with what he's doing. I like what he's doing. He gets trained by Marty Jones, another guy that's wrestled my father as well.
Yep.
He's in good hands, isn't he? So
absolutely. Listen, when you think about Marty Jones and what he's accomplished, and you think about all those people, and I was curious because you were on a card with Johnny Storm, and I never really got a chance to ask anybody this. I mean, what do you learn just from being in a locker room with the Johnny Storm? I'd just be so fascinated to hear that.
This is like, for me personally, I wish I could have more time on. I wish I could go around the country and be in a car with these guys and just be a sponge and absorb all this knowledge and all this advice and guidance, because I feel like a lot of days now you don't get that, where back in the day you could have like so many experienced wrestlers that you could be in a car with and you could just gain knowledge from. I've been in with Johnny Storm. I can't praise the guy enough. He's an absolute, great talent. Another guy that's wrestled my father as well. Back when my dad nearly retired, kind of on the end point of it all. Forever, any other guys as well. If you've ever got a chance to even go to a seminar of his, I would highly recommend it.
Oh, absolutely, no question about it. And I would just think that, again, that's one of those moments where you just want to absorb every single thing, because those experiences that somebody has like that. I think Disciple might have mentioned Johnny Storm before. I think he had mentioned at one of the very early interviews he did, but it's very few wrestlers could say they were on a card and know him like you do. And I thought that's why it was so important to ask you on that. And Joel also says, "I respect you, Hammerhead Smith. All the best for this year." Joel has always been one of my favorites, and Joel also has done some commentary work in GT Ministries. And Joel's one of those guys that you definitely want to be on his good side. He would be one of these guys, if I saw in a darkened alley, I would either run the other way or just give him all the money I have. So that's why I want to give a big shout out to Joel Cobra. I want to give Joel one more shout out if I could, because Joel also is the guy that about 5 or 6, I tell this story all the time, and I get people laugh at this all the time. He compared me to the Ryan Seacrest of UK Pro Wrestling, and he's the reason that convinced me not to take a job at Macy's. Macy's had hired me for a job, and they wanted me to cut my hair and shave my mutton chops. And I'm like, I can't do it, and I got to stay on Sportswire, even if it costs me pounds and such. But he has a comment on Johnny Storm. He says, "Johnny Storm is a stand-up guy. Had the pleasure of reffing a few of his matches when I was 15, cutting my teeth in the industry. A lot of love for him." I'm sure that matches what you've had your experiences with, correct?
Yeah. Like I said, I've been on plenty of shows with him. Funny enough, I'm on a show with him in 2 weeks in my hometown. So, yeah, like I said, any up-and-coming guys that's coming in the business, if you know Johnny Storm's in the locker room with you, I would literally, best advice for you, go up and just gain knowledge off him like a sponge.
I was going to ask you a follow-up question, because you mentioned 2 weeks from now in your hometown, and I'd asked this question to Bentley a couple of months ago, not this most recent time he came on a little while ago, but what does that mean to be able to wrestle in your hometown?
To be honest, it doesn't matter if they're in my hometown. I'm still going to literally make the crowd hate me as much as possible.
Okay. All right.
Me,
All right.
family or friends. I'm there to do a job. I'm there to get paid at the end of the day. You know, there was a time once where I worked a show, and I think it was 2 years into my career. I walked out, and it was my family's friends. I walked around. A kid tried to come up to me. I stole his Mars bar and spat it on the floor. And his mum tried to whack me with a walking stick. And it doesn't bother me. Things like that, it's like I feed that because, if I'm under your skin, I'm doing my job correctly.
Well, I heard this, I want to say a couple days ago from somebody, and I won't say who told me this, but they say that when you're doing your job like that, there are very few wrestlers that actually can do that with the crowd. Everybody wants to be cheered, everybody wants to be loved, but in a way, with what you just did, actually is probably the best thing that any wrestler could do because in some way or another, you're getting the biggest reaction and such, and everybody wants to be loved. But what about people that with what you're doing? So you could certainly make that point here. And we are here, brother, about 10 or so minutes here with Hammerhead Smith. We certainly appreciate his time. He's going to be in the ring here a number of different places, but most notably for our friends over at CCW. That'll be next Saturday here at Cutlery Championship Wrestling's Fight or Strike 2. He'll be in the ring against Ulfric Winterwolf and Palmer. His tag team partner will also be a former CCW Underground Heavyweight Champion, also former top tier member Onyx and Chris Onyx. So very, very excited about this match. These guys bring a lot to the table. Gotten a chance to have Chris on the show now that we have Hammerhead as well. Very, very honored. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. Also, please follow Hammerhead on social media, Facebook and Instagram. It's Hammerhead Smith _Jr. Please support him. Please support all that he does out there. He is a phenomenal wrestler. And he's probably going to be one of these guys you are going to see out there in some big, big places. Reminds me almost of, in some ways, like a 2-bit. Reminds me of a Synergy where you have him on, and a year from now, you're going to be seeing him blow up into big, big, big places. So make sure you support somebody like this here. But Hammerhead, I wanted to ask you before I get to closing thoughts and a few other things, and obviously very, very honored to have you here on Sportswire. You were definitely one of the people I wanted to have you on for quite a while for the show here. But I mean, I know you had a lot of moments. I know you could probably point to a lot of different things, but I always ask a wrestler this the first time I have them on Sportswire. Is there one or two moments in your career so far that stand out most?
Yeah. When I was 17 years old, I managed to step into the ring with Scott Hall.
Wow. Oh, boy. Wow. Wow.
This is on YouTube, and I confronted him in a promo, and he literally chucked a toothpick in my eye. And so that stood out to me because I'm thinking, bloody hell, I'm 17 years old. I'm standing in the ring with Scott Hall. It doesn't get any better than that, And second one would be, it's just, for me, it's always been with my dad, to be honest. Like he's always kind of been proud of what I've done. So it's great to just continue this legacy because he's had such a big legacy in the past, and to continue this is just, you can't have it any other way.
I think the second part is the most important part. Now, I get the Scott Hall part. Listen, I mean, certainly Scott Hall and that's great. But I mean, your father had a legacy. Your father was really somebody that was very special in the professional wrestling world here in the UK. And I think to be able to follow in his footsteps, not an easy thing to do. Again, I can't stress this, and everybody thinks, oh, you get handed it. No, listen, I gave you examples. David Sammartino, David Flair. Not everybody makes it to the degree that a Charlotte Flair did, or a Bret Hart, or a Randy Orton. I mean, listen, what you're doing, I think it's a lot more pressure than people realize. So I think that's the most really impressive answer I could have got on the one or two things, because again, I really don't think it's as easy as people make it out to be. It's not like, listen, anything else. Being a wrestler and just going out there and learning to bump and learning to move and learning to be able to conduct yourself in a certain way. I really think that stuff, listen, it's not for everybody. It's not an easy thing. And I mean, let me ask you one more question on Scott Hall before I get to closing thoughts. I mean, did you have any chance to speak to him for a few minutes or any advice at that time? I know 17 is not where you are now, but I mean, I knew you definitely knew wrestling. So was there anything you got to ask him, any insight or advice?
Yeah, I just obviously asked him, what's the best advice you can give for someone with my situation as to what we mentioned as a second generation. He said, look, at the end of the day, you are going to be in a hard position. There's going to be a lot of people out there that's going to try and chop you down, because at the end of the day, you're having an experience that probably most wrestlers won't have, obviously building up into the company and going into it in the next few years. And he just said, listen, just keep your head down, do what you do, and things will happen.
And interestingly enough, his son is also following his footsteps, Cody Hall, who I think last year did a tour of the UK. I'm almost certain he was here because I think I referenced it with RPD, because I think I had RPD right around the time. I'm trying to remember. I think it was about April or so that he was here. So listen, I could definitely see you touring. I had Franco Varga on, and Franco Varga's from America. He toured here, and Mitch Taylor, who was also in the Rumble, he toured as well. And I have a feeling that you will go on to a tour. And another wrestler from the UK that's also going to tour the other way here in America is Jinnah. And Jinnah's supposed to be with us, I believe, next week. So I have a feeling that you're going to be one of those guys I'm going to see somewhere. So I look forward to all of that here. But I do want to get to closing thoughts here. I know you're a busy man. So my first thing, is there anything you want to say, final thoughts for your opponents coming up next Saturday here, Fighter Strike 2 in Ulfric Winterwolf and Palmer? Anything you want to say to them before we sign off?
All I'm going to say is just be ready for a war, because at the end of the day, you're going to see literally four guys go at it. Four big guys literally don't care what happens to their bodies. At the end of the day, there's only going to be one team that walks out a winner. Unfortunately, it's going to be me and Onyx, because I'm not going to start 2023 on a losing way. I'm sorry, but this year is too special to me to lose like this. I'd rather, start to really show what I'm capable of. Like I said, I ended on a good note last year. This year is going to be even better.
Well, I could say you might end on a great note. You might be on a great foot to start next Saturday. And if I'm Palmer and Ulfric Winterwolf, I might just want to get out of the way and just take the L and kind of deal with it. And Chris Onyx, another guy that I think you're going to definitely be watching, to say the least, here throughout 2023. And again, we had him on, I want to say, about 6 or 7 months ago, kind of in the midst of the top tier run. And that was kind of when you had the period here when you were not in the company. But you're here now, and we're looking forward to watching the show. And of course, you can catch it on the Cutlery Championship Wrestling Facebook page. They had streamed the last show. So we're very cautiously optimistic that I'll get to watch it again live. And I want to thank everybody here for allowing us to share it on their Facebook group, Cutlery Championship Wrestling. So Hammerhead, I know you're a busy man, so I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, say? And I can't thank you enough for this opportunity. I hope we get you on here more often on Sportswire Radio, and the floor is yours, my friend.
All I can really say is just keep a watch out for the name Hammerhead Smith. It's that simple. 2023 is going to be my biggest year, hands down. And forever, all of the people, from what I could say earlier, all of the people that's hiding behind your phones, all of the people that's hiding behind your keyboards, and you think that I ain't got what it takes, trust me, this year is going to put me completely up to there. Even though last year, it's convenient that the top tier team with that, but theoretically, Hammerhead Smith is top tier, and it's been like that since day one. You're looking at a guy that's got literally everything to gain and nothing to lose at this point, because I'm chasing and chasing and chasing. I'm going to literally to city, traveling miles upon miles, month by month. And do you honestly think I'm going to literally stand here and literally make, all of this happen and then have it not work out? I don't think it's going to happen that way. I think 2023 is going to end in a very big way, and it's going to help Hammerhead Smith excel to the top.
I'll tell you what, this is why, ladies and gentlemen, you want to follow him on Instagram at HammerheadSmith_Jr. Cutlery Championship Wrestling on Facebook and Instagram, because he is going to not only start the year, he's going to continue the year of 2023 on a great foot. That is going to start here coming up next Saturday. And I think that's the theme of tonight's shows here on Sportswire, whether it was with Bentley or Hammerhead Smith. These guys are motivated. They're primed and poised for very, very big things, and we certainly look forward to the future with both, and especially our guest here, the former, and some could say he still should be the CCW champion. He never lost it, so he's one of these guys. Listen, He could very well, you could make a legitimate claim here that he really is the uncrowned champion or the still crowned champion because he never lost the title by pinfall or submission. So that's something I think that's going to be a big theme here in 2023 because Hammerhead Smith, something tells me, whether it's Hybrid, Mad Max Cooper, or anybody else, he's not done with that championship. We're going to cover it here. My friend, I can't thank you enough. Congratulations on all the success already. I know you're going to have even more success. I look forward to speaking about it. And I thank you for this opportunity and can't wait to watch you next Saturday and see what else you have in store.
No problem. Thanks for having me on, and I'll see you soon.
You sure will. And again, my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. And if you were on sportnarium.com/player, you'll go back to your regularly scheduled programming. And I'll be back here live 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. British Standard Time with EHW World Champion Stephen Havoc. And then right afterwards, making his debut, Wrestling Warzone Star. Speaking of California and tours, maybe that could be a place that Hammerhead Smith could be heading one day. Who knows? Stay tuned for that. And that is CeeLo Brown. CeeLo's going to be a part of their show coming up February the 4th. And again, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you're on Facebook, Sportswire Radio, YouTube, Sportswire Radio, and we'll go back to your regular scheduling program soon. So thank you, everybody, here on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio.